Welcome to Sister Sessions, a podcast where two sisters on very different journeys explore what it means to live spiritually in today's world. My sister, Jenny Fairbank, is the co-founder and spiritual director of Wisdom Pathways, a yoga and meditation teacher, and a somatic healer devoted to guiding others toward inner peace. And I'm Susie Gustin, a mom of three, producer and owner of Red City Live Entertainment, embracing life's joys while searching for deeper meaning. Together, we have honest, relatable conversations about finding balance, purpose, and connection in everyday life. So settle in. You are exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Sister Sessions. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sister Sessions podcast. I am Susie Gustin, your co-host with my sister, Jenny Fairbank.
Hello.
And welcome to the space where we get divine and real. Today, we are welcoming a very special guest that Jenny and I are very excited about, and I will just go right into it. Today, we are honored to welcome Stephen Ross into Sister Sessions Studio. Stephen has given thousands of intuitive readings, guided countless people on their spiritual journeys, and is a beloved specialist at Miraval Resorts. He is also a co-founder of Wisdom Pathways with our very own Jenny Fairbank, where together they help people deepen their awareness and step into their highest selves. Today we're diving into some powerful themes: the shift in consciousness we're living in right now, the call for self-transformation, and what it means to truly experience a soul reset. This conversation could not come at a better time. So please welcome our very special guest, Stephen Ross.
Thank you, Susie and Jenny. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here. You guys are sisters, and Jenny calls me her soul brother. So I feel like we're in family doing this together.
Yes.
So thank you, guys.
Yes, it does feel a little extra special today for sure, and I'm very excited about that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to I want to get into how the two of you connected so we can get where it started from and get our listeners a little up to speed here.
Yeah, Jenny and I have had parallels in our history. We've been yoga studio owners together, teaching yoga, meditation. She went on the route of running a retreat center. I found myself in what I would call the wellness industry. I say that because it's a big company kind of thing. And we have a lot of parallels. And then I unintentionally became an intuitive medium. It just awakened and happened. And then, she's a few years behind me, but she comes into her own right, what she does in her work. And then there's this beautiful synchronicity, totally unplanned, of coming together in a way where we didn't even know what it was. And we've only recently got to a point where Wisdom Pathways is truly being born. And that's our mission and partnership together, and lots we can say about that. So I think parallel, Jenny, is the way I see our history, and then something has brought the two paths into one.
Yes, we met officially in this life, I'm going to say, in 2010. And then, yes, that whole kind of parallel, doing our own separate work, but always knowing each other and being in similar circles. 2022, is that when it was, Stephen?
Somewhere about there, 21, 22, yeah.
21, 22, Stephen came out to the retreat, and, just a lot of conversation around wanting to work together because there was so much in alignment. And then we started Wisdom Pathways, which was actually a different name at first. We had a different name for our business, and then it's been evolving for the last 3 years in such a beautiful way. And really working together has amplified both of our work, I might say, right? Like our individual work now is amplified when we work together with a client. And so it's been quite magical to see people's transformation when we work together, and how much more of service I feel that we can be in a greater way for souls. So it's thrilling, and I feel like we're just getting started.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, Stephen, our awesome listening audience that we have out there, our followers here on Sister Sessions. It's a wide range of people in the spiritual community, those that are just curious, some that are really trying to learn, some that are already, years into it. So for those people who may not necessarily know your work, can you describe a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So a little of my worldview, first of all, I essentially see that everything we come to in life, we have a choice to be conscious of what we do, a choice to make that is higher in expectations and outcomes versus lower, and essentially a choice to make something sacred versus profane. And I believe we live in a time period where we're being asked to show up and make the higher choices. And it's not easy to do because society pulls you away from that place. Just a simple act of attention versus distraction. It's not, you get distracted all the time. And so I see the potential of life as having a deep meaning and purpose, and essentially a pathway, an energetic and lived pathway of how to fulfill your life. And that really takes you to a place of deep happiness, deep joy in what you do. So that's my worldview of how I see things. And anything and everything can be sacred. How you parent, how you garden, how you wash the dishes, how you go to work, anything can be made in this choice, potentially. Now, for me, I see the soul as a living energy field, very sophisticated. I don't see it as just a blob. We tend to think about an essence of a light or a ghost or, all the movies and images, but I actually am able to read it. And so I can read the soul, and I see the soul as having an anatomy of sorts. This is where chakras come in and energy channels and stuff. But forget all that for a moment. Imagine that there's something inside of you, a blueprint for your life, that's nudging you through intuition, something to wake you up a little bit, to make the choices, to give to life, to add to life, to bring beauty, to be fulfilled in what you do. And I'm like a map reader for that, in a manner of speaking. And so we can find in there potentials that are dormant. We can find when people go off their rails, so to speak, where they feel resistant, stuck, and lost, and how we can position you back onto that. And so that blueprint is alive in each person, no exceptions. And you could be in the darkest place, but I find there's a way out. We just got to find it. It could take a bit of work to get there, depending on what's happened, and things are guarded and hidden for different reasons. But essentially, there's a way forward for people. And so we can excavate to some degree, we can find that, and it's very practical. It's not about God per se in the religious sense. It's essentially about your life and can you bring light to it. So, and again, excavation comes to mind, you guys, because I think about tunneling through in some cases and finding that trapped inner child or that authentic self that's there. And so I very much try to map that out for people, and it complements Jenny's gifts, which I'll let her speak to. But essentially, for each person, there's a way forward, and it's completely universal, and it brings you a radiance that it really translates to an inner happiness, a sense of peace and knowing that your life has meaning. So does that make sense? Yeah.
It does make sense. So, from my point of view, like thinking about all the people in the world, right? And you're saying that we all are born with this blueprint, we all have this within us. Is it in this lifetime that the expectation is that you find it while you're here? Or are there people that it just may never happen for, or they hear it and they just ignore it? But does everyone hear that nudge and just have a choice to ignore it? Or are some people just lucky in this life that they're catapulted a little bit forward? Like I have, my sister as a beautiful example for me to follow in the footsteps and what she's doing. So that's a gift I've been given. But not everyone has people around them that are, like you're a gift in my life. And it's like there's people that are in all darkness. So do those people hear the nudge too?
Not necessarily. However, I believe it's there. So there's a quote, paraphrasing Emerson, about sometimes the act of getting up in the morning is an act of great courage. And when I read people, and on the surface, your mind, your ego might say, God, this person hasn't got their stuff together. This person's a bit, prickly around the edges, or a bit, whatever. And then all of a sudden you lift the lid, you look under the hood, and you realize, my God, If I was holding the stuff they're holding, I would be prickly too. I probably wouldn't even get out of bed in the morning. I don't know if I could handle it. So I've learned massive compassion for people in their day-to-day dramas, because just the act of getting up for some people is very impactful on collective consciousness. I want to say that first of all. Secondly is, to really make sense of this, you have to think much bigger picture, that our life, you say people's lives and everyone has access to it. This lifetime we live in is one piece of a jigsaw puzzle. And that jigsaw puzzle, it's hard to say for sure. Hundreds of lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes, it's hard to say for sure. And it's not just Susie, Stephen, and Jenny walking around in previous lifetimes. It's energies of stories and people and situations. It's complex. So my point is, we come in a work in progress, in my opinion, and you try to leave a slightly more evolved work in progress by the end of it. And if you're doing that, you've moved the needle. If you sit and just become a creature of habit, don't try, don't battle to change anything, then the Buddhists call samsara. You reincarnate almost like in a mirror circumstance back in again, and then again, and then something comes that cracks that shell. Also, in the time period we live in, there's great suffering. Now, you got to think of Mother Nature producing two qualities in life, sweet and bitter, thorns and roses. So we're always looking for the sweets, like my kids, they just want the candy, But it's the bitter and the negative and the suffering which drives a lot of us and propels us to make these changes. And then there comes a point where people cry out and say enough. And so this is, again, complex. Everyone's on a different journey. I believe the signals are there a lot of the time, but there's so much noise, so much, I would say, poisoning of the mind in many ways, that people just don't try. And then some people just sit in the proverbial armchair and don't do it. But I think if the calling is there, they hear the knock and they begin to inquire just a little bit. It astounds me how those walls, the dams, break for people. And then this is a very important teaching in Bhagavad Gita. Just a little effort, just try a little, and you find the walls come apart. I hope I'm answering the question. I think it's there for everyone to some degree. For some people, they just get through it, they trudge through it, but they don't realize the enormity of what they've done. Like if you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's, for example, and you think, I lost all these, I wanted to, be an artist or open a business. I didn't do it because I was caring for these people for years. They don't realize that the act of caring for someone in a selfless act is worth 10 of those businesses in your karma, you see?
Okay.
The others who just sit there, who don't try and kind of fold their arms and press, play on the TV, they're wasting their life in some ways. And then there's this huge amount of people who are called to do something.
Wow.
And everyone's on their journey. It's one of those things where it's utterly astounding when you start to see it big picture of what's going on and how we're in this crazy planet at this time. But essentially, there's a momentum here where if you do try, there's a big payoff. Jenny, do you want to comment to that? Because you see so much.
Completely agree. Yeah, I mean, we're all being called gently and quietly. It's just if we have the ears to hear and we're able to listen at the time. But every little step, every little effort is worth it because it is helping you to evolve. It doesn't have to be massive effort, but anything is important because it's all about expanding our awareness.
And one thing that really I try to convey to people is, and since, the last 50, 60 years, I guess since the 60s, really the counterculture revolution, there's a massive amount of solutions available to us that weren't there before. And I always say I like to make fun of Americans because you guys are like always inventing new modalities of things. Like in Europe, it's not like that. Like there's the one old-fashioned way and they kind of stick with it. But in Americans are always coming up with new modalities. But there's so many healing modalities, so many people dedicating their lives to this. You've got all these resources, I think, to do it all on your phone, at your fingertips. Yeah. And this is astonishing shift that just wasn't there before. So this is a time of great healing. And the doors are open.
Yeah, you talk about how now is the time for transformation. Can you be specific on what is happening in the world right now that you feel that now's the time?
Yeah. So there's a big picture and then there's the minutiae of where we are today. One of the big things that Jenny and I, the teaching that follows is a shift in consciousness that arises around 1900 period. And you see it most obviously in science and how we see reality. So 17, 1800s, it's a point where everything's material. What you see is what you get. You communicate physically, like someone rides a horse and gives them a letter, that kind of way. And all of a sudden we get into a place of energy, electricity, we split the atom, and in reality it turns out it's not just physical, it's energetic. There's vibration, there's frequency, there's a whole different way to see things. Well, for Jenny and I, our teachers, the yogis of India, said that this same revolution essentially happens internally, and the disconnection we feel between the divine spirit, the other realms, etc., that also breaks open. And so people now are much closer to sensing an interconnection of life, connection to various spirit guides, beings, angels, and so on, and even to the divine presence. And it's easier to access than it was hundreds of years ago. This correlates with the arrival of the Western teachers, yogis, gurus, Buddhist monks, etc., coming to America primarily. And they didn't come to convert. They came with a toolkit to realize the nature of the self. And they came with meditation practices, yoga practices, as if to say, you guys can do it too. So that's a very important context of where we're at. They also predicted in the 1800s that we were going to move into a phase of human development that was potentially cataclysmic. And they write somewhere like the 80s, they say there's a real danger that human beings could destroy themselves in the next couple centuries, because they basically get access to all the big toys and their consciousness is still very immature. And so the basic example is we split the atom and the first instinct is make a bomb. So it's a very precarious time, and our ethical boundaries of the old world, thou shalt not, has been taken apart. We're unhinged, I guess. And so for that point, then it's very volatile time period. So that's been going on the last 120 years or so. And that brings us to today. I'm going to say this to you semi-intuitively, you guys, but I would say over the last few months in particular, there's something of a shock to people's system. Something that seems to be jolting them and calling them to wake up. I'm astounded by how many people come to me who say, I'm tired of being this occupation, or I'm not going to pick on corporate lawyers because they're one of the worst. I don't want to be a corporate lawyer anymore. Whoever it might be, I want to do what I came here to do. And it's happening again and again and again, dozens and dozens of people. And I don't want to get political or anything, but since the election, I've never seen so many people come. It's like something jolted them and snapping them out of their reality. And so there's a big picture of all this, a shift that's happening. And then there's something about when you're going against your soul's own wisdom, it starts this mechanism where it builds resistance, and it translates to feeling lost, stuck, empty, less alive. And people are like, what is it? I should have the bucket list checked. I should be really happy. And instead I feel more empty. And so that's one of the big ways it shows up. I better stop talking there.
No. I just heard the young lady Hoda, she used to be on Good Morning America, I think it was. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
She's one of the journalists on the show. She retired early because she decided she wanted to live her life differently.
Mm-hmm.
But she always puts out these wonderful messages, and she was just telling this quick story about this man who was super, super successful in his life, and he never felt fulfilled. Then he had this opportunity to provide wheelchairs for all of these people in another country who needed them. So he was it was kind of put in his lap in a sense. And he's like, I'm going to do this because nothing else has made me feel fulfilled. And one of the men that was in a wheelchair grabbed his arm. He put him in the wheelchair, helped him into the chair. And he said to him, what are you doing? And he said, I just want to look at you because I want to remember your face when we meet again in heaven. And he said, and that was it. That was when he finally felt what he was missing his whole life. It was in that one moment. And that what you just said just brought me to that story.
Beautiful story. And it is that one moment. And it's surprising how I'm going to call the divine, the spirit, this connection of life and beauty and love shows up in these ways. And it snaps people out of their trance. And they think, what am I doing? What's my next step? Where should I go? And I'm seeing my work, at least, I would say, an acceleration of that. And this is because of the energetic shift. I mean, I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole of all the woo-woo stuff, but there's something seems to be changing the frequency. And these moments are accelerating, both positively and negatively.
Yeah. I also saw this when you were talking about how the prediction of the human race destroying itself. Well, that goes into people will think of AI now, right? What is that going to do to humanity? And there was just this article about, they call him the godfather of AI, and he was explaining how the next step to AI, which was, I have always been very, technology, I'm here for it because I can't stop it, so I want to learn it. But this was something that put me back. He said the next step with AI is they want to teach AI how to have maternal instincts, because if they don't, AI will destroy the human race unless they teach it maternal instincts, the way a mother cares for a baby. I don't know how they're going to do that. But I mean, just the thought that that's how deep that they're trying to get these robots to think.
Yes. I don't even know how to fully answer that, Susie, but I was going to say something a little bit goofy. I have this idea for a t-shirt, and Jenny's heard this before, but I call it HI, higher intelligence, plus AI equals the answer. I'm saying that publicly, I'm embarrassing myself, but if we don't have access to our intuition, our higher capacities, so I would rate from the heart chakra, emotional intelligence, again, compassion, love, kindness, motherly, maternal instincts. If we don't have that activated and you're not using that human faculty, I would say you're in a bit of trouble, because what you're going to be left with is analysis, rational, and then perhaps over dependency on AI. If you don't have the ability to intuit higher wisdom in yourself, to know it, to have these connections, then I think in some ways you're going to be left behind. And so I would say the higher intelligence, having that and you're using it, and then I can use AI to, give me a recipe, or I can use it to do these things that would be subconscious. Does that make sense? That's my take.
And I also love your t-shirt. I love your t-shirt idea. It's so cute. It's so cute. It makes sense too.
I already see it with some friends where it worries me about overdependence on the AI to do things. So Jenny and I have been doing website stuff. It's like pulling our hair out with all this, and it's really enticing to just let ChatGPT do it. And there's something in me, I'm kind of stubborn. I'm like, hold on a second. So I get it to give me some information. I'm like, okay, that's all good and well. I can arrange my thoughts. I pray, meditate, and then intuit words. And it comes out, and there's a transmission in the words I'm intuiting for a web page. It doesn't matter if it's the best marketing phrase. There's a transmission. So if you don't have access to that higher intelligence, you can't transmit like that. It's all going to sound the same, I think.
Yeah, it's vital that we tap into our highest light, and that we let that be our guiding light and not AI or anyone else. Because we are massive, intelligent beings who have all the wisdom inside of us. We don't need to look outside of ourselves for answers. And this is part of what Stephen and I are here to do, is help other people wake up to that and to know that they can trust their highest intelligence. But you have to know how to tap into it. And it's vital, because that is where freedom lies.
Jenny, the way I see this with people when I'm doing sessions is, imagine now that a lot of the technology developments are mimicking what consciousness is doing and the interconnected web of consciousness in time and space. And imagine now you have access to a super internet, a super intelligence. It's called, I'm not a physicist by any means, but they say non-local. So it means you're accessing all points in the universe as one. That's pretty amazing. And it's even not time-based. so you can precognize, go to the past, the memories to use it. And imagine a processor, which is the soul, where all this stuff's coming through, and then it just quietly pops out, a bit like how AI does. You don't see what's happening on the back end, but it pops out a simple prompt. And the prompt might be, hey, it's time to, to take up exercise again. Or the prompt might be, it's time to shift and be more open-hearted in your relationships. The prompt might be, it's time to move to this new city. And so all you're seeing is the little thing coming out at the end. And it might come to you in a walk by a sunset. And so you can use protocols to get that to speak through you, but it's tied to something profound. And then one step of that journey might actually be a new pathway that's 1,000 steps, 1,000 miles. And so, but you don't know it. All you know is you got this little hunch. I need to move to Oregon. A lot of Austin people want to move to Oregon, anyway, I want to move to Oregon. So all you have is that nudge. And so it's a compass. Once you see what's on the back end, it's infinite intelligence interconnected to everything that has your best interest at heart. That essentially, if you're a child of a divine mother, essentially, then it's your birthright to receive this wisdom. And it's right there for you to access. Now, some people have a hard time accessing it. That's why people like us are around. But for now, just understand that there's something just prompting you in the same way. So don't look down onto your phone like, I'm just going to find the answer subconsciously. We've got to raise our energy to a super conscious state in meditation, and that makes it easy.
I see. So, Jenny, I want to ask you a question. What makes the work that you and Stephen together do unique compared to other spiritual offerings?
That's a great question.
Stephen, feel free to interject as well.
Go for it, Jenny.
Well, first, that we have been on the spiritual path for a couple of decades, and we are both devotees of a great avatar master, Paramahansa Yogananda. And so we come from that background of teachings. And so there's that part of us that's unique, given all of our devotion to that path, but also that we live in this world that is where we work with clients and individuals to help them raise their understanding of what they truly are and who they truly are. And then in conjunction to that, so there's that part of it, but also the uniqueness of us in terms of our individual uniqueness coming together, where I feel that we have this profound way of holding space for people in a way where we can meet them exactly where they are without any judgment or pretenses. We don't preach anything to anyone. We're not, gurus or self-proclaimed masters by any means. We're on the path with you. And so we're very practical. We're very down to earth, so to speak, and give practical plans and practices to people to help them on their journey wherever they are. And so you don't have to be considering yourself as spiritual or anything, religious or anything. You're a human who needs some help. We all are humans who need help at times. And we feel, as Stephen said, sometimes feeling stuck or at a loss or in transition or don't know what to do next. We can provide that blueprint of their soul to help them on their way, to say, okay, here are the steps that you need to take next. So there are a lot of elements, I feel like, to our uniqueness, and those are some of them. That's what's coming to me.
That was great. Yeah, no, that was a lot. That was good.
Yeah.
Especially for being thrown the question unprepared. As I asked it, I was like, maybe I should have told her I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
But you get an A+.
Thanks.
I would say two things come to mind as I'm listening to Jenny. One is the method we use. There's a sophistication in the mediumship and the healing that we do. We are mediums and healers, but we're also spiritual teachers. We got counseling experience, ordained minister. There's a lot of that we bring together into the package. But the method we use is we can target for people in such a way. So again, where they are, we can move them through their path and show them what needs to be there. And the other thing that comes to mind, Susie, when you say it is trust. People sometimes say, and it always makes me blush, but I just trust you. And they're talking about some of the most important things of their life. And often I'm just a stranger. So I must have one of those faces, or it's a Scottish accent. I don't know. But essentially, they trust us. They trust in what we're delivering, trust in how we see them through. And it's not really about us at the end of the day. And that's a big part, I think, of what makes us unique. I mean, there's the nuts and bolts of it, which I think are absolutely amazing, and I love to get to that. But for now, the method, the trust, and I think that the knowing, like we can, lots of people can get psychic guidance, but one of the things for myself is I've studied so much in the philosophy of yoga and spiritual philosophy in general that I can take that and interpret it of where we need to go. And that takes a lot of study and observation.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, one of the things that you wanted to talk about that got me a little excited was the words soul reset.
Yes.
So perhaps we can start with talking to myself and the listeners. So I know Jenny definitely has advice on this as well. How can we recognize when our soul is ready for a change?
Yeah. There's a few simple ways. First of all, the soul has an agenda of sorts. It's looking for a few things, if you can imagine. It first of all is looking to heal from old wounds and burdens that people hold. And so it's looking for a way to release that consciously. And so a lot of people feel they get to a point where they're weighed down by things and they want to let go in some ways. They don't know how to do it, but there's something seems off. That's one part of it. The other part is the lostness or feeling stuck or empty. So when someone sat down with me last week and didn't know them, just came right in for a session, and they said, "Stephen, I'm stuck." And I a little smile came on my face like, "Congratulations." That's what I actually said. Because if it happens, imagine you're in a maze trying to get out back into your freedom, and the stuck is usually hitting some kind of wall. So when that happens, we're like, we got to now get you to turn where you need to go. And so the further you go from your truth, from your center, from your authentic nature, the more you're going to feel lost, empty, and stuck. So that's actually good news. Sometimes things fall apart. This is usually because of a transition, which means you're shifting internally. So it's not just a one plateaued line in life. It goes through seasons. So for example, in the middle of life, people wake up one day and all of a sudden nothing works anymore. They fall to pieces, as the expression goes. Again, this is a congratulations moment. Your old chapter and attachments are unhooking themselves, you see? And so that's a point of how you are ready for a reset. And so you're ready for the next stage.
Yeah. So someone that is in that maze and hits that wall and they don't have the resources, what would you suggest would be a good starting point if they're like, well, I don't have the resources. I cannot financially go to someone to talk. What would be the simplest ways to get themselves turned around in that maze?
Yeah. I would say, what's coming to me intuitively, and I have to unpack it, is there's a knock at the front door, go to the door. That's what comes through somewhat psychically. And there's a knock at the front door, go to the door. I think just the realization that life is knocking, trying to pull you from somewhere. Maybe that's my interpretation. There's also, human beings have a superpower, doing something with another human being. And so thoughts are universally connected. And so just a friend who's a listener and there as well can help you realize maybe I'm going down the wrong path. That would be a simple answer to some of that. And then one of the things that we do at Wisdom Pathways that's very dear to my heart and I'm very passionate about, and this one takes a little bit of convincing for others, we offer everything we do at what's called a gift payment. And what that means is all of our offerings we give freely as a gift. And I mean with no attachment to money. And so it's really funny because it's hard to build a website and online services because all the infrastructure expects you to demand money. And so it's a bit of a pain building a website around it. But essentially, we offer the session as a gift. We don't even tell you how to pay us, and you pay back what's suggested as the value. which a woman emailed me today, and she said, I'm out of work. I'm at the lowest point of my life. What do you suggest? Like, I can't afford your rate. You have a suggested rate. What would you accept so I could do it? And I wrote back, I'm serious when I say zero. And she wrote back just completely stunned. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn or anything, just simply that it's the God's honest truth. And so this is called living in the gift. So in terms of what we do at Wisdom Pathways, there's very little attachment to anything monetary. There's a little bit of, sometimes we have a little bit of deposit money because of some expense, but even then we'll just waive it. So that's very important to me to say that, Susie, to anyone who struggles.
I mean, that was a heck of an answer to the question. That's a beautiful answer. And for anyone listening, I mean, where else can you, I mean, that sets you guys apart from everyone else right there.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's huge. That's huge because you are in this industry that when people need you, they really need you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very big deal. It's not like, a haircut or, like you can go without your haircut and you can just be just fine. But what you guys do is so important. So to be able to offer to those who are not available, the resources aren't available to them. That's amazing.
And actually, this is in a lot of people's hearts who are affluent. I happen to work with a lot of affluent people because of where I also work part-time is a lot of affluent people. So when you suggest a payment, they pay more again and again and again. And there's something in the gift economy and the gift payments that says, when I pay a bit more, that allows someone who can't afford it to come for less.
Yeah.
And then you trust that the hard part is to trust that in abundance. And actually, if you let go of all your grasping for money, the abundance just comes and it somehow seems to work. And in my yoga studio, I really struggled with this before I'd even heard of this gift payments, because the reality is just doing a suggested donation, undervaluing yourself. So I'll just do a $10 class. You can't survive on that. And so it just doesn't work, I don't think.
Yeah, it reminds me of that simple take a penny, leave a penny that they used to have on cash register counters.
Mm-hmm.
Much bigger scale, but
it's in a much bigger scale, yeah. And so this is important for people. And just if I can finish my thought on your earlier question, there's lost, stuck, and empty, but the soul, that's you. There are a couple of things here. Releasing the burdens in your energy body that are ready to go. That will speak to you and knock on the door. Feeling lost and stuck is essentially bumping into the wall and turning around. But there's another facet of this, which is in the positive, whether it be the stars align, which is astrology, whether it be chance, who knows. But there's an awakening in people where they feel called to share their gifts. Imagine all of life is interdependent, and imagine every one of us is born with a gift of sorts, which can be a very simple thing. And we feel called to give the gifts. So when that calling gets stronger, your soul knocks really hard. Again, super intelligent computer, better than AI, I say with a smile. And essentially what it does is say, hey, follow this dream. And this is where a lot of people come to us. And so when you do that, all of a sudden a pathway comes. If you'll indulge me, you guys, I want to talk about GPS. I know it's crazy, but the basic formula for this is, if you can be in your truth, even the truth of I'm miserable in my marriage or whatever it might be, that's GPS location. And your desire is to be happy and loved and be excited for who you truly are. It's pretty lofty, but a reasonable goal. That's the GPS destination. What does the soul do through its super intelligence? It reveals the way. You see? That's the route. And it gives you the fastest route to get there, which might involve a hairpin bend going back before you get there. And then best of all, I say with a smile, there's energy in your desire when you follow it. So it gives you a tank of gas to get there. I'm being a little silly but this is how I see it.
No, you're actually speaking my language. I mean, it's good. It's helping me so much, for sure. And I'm thinking, so is the tank of gas, if you're conscious of it and you're saying, I am open to receiving answers, I'm open to receiving guidance, please help me, is that the gas?
Yeah, no, that's more the desire for the location, which we need to pinpoint.
Okay.
So when intuition comes in, it's going to show you as, let's just say, being I don't know, a teacher or creating gardens, whatever you want. That vision comes in for people. This is a truth. Okay, let's just say like you know it in your heart. So I lead classes on this, and I lead them through intuitive practices, and I let this intuitive compass speak to them. And when it lands with someone, a couple of really amazing things happen, you guys. One is their face lights up. Their energy field just brightened, and you can visually see it. In fact, other people in the room will go, "Oh my God, your face changed just by expressing a truth." So there's energy behind it. The second thing they do is they usually have a tear. That's their heart opening and their desire really opening what they want. So the truth in that way awakens them in such a way that they feel alive in it. They want to talk about it. And all of a sudden you have a momentum to follow through. It might not last because people will, the ego can shut it down quick. But when that momentum comes, that's the gas to take the next step.
Okay. That's so interesting. So in terms of transformation, this question goes to both of you. Throwing it out to whoever wants to catch it. What kinds of transformations are you seeing for people that are coming through wisdom pathways? Like what kind of transformations are they making? What expectation coming into wisdom pathways, meeting with the two of you, should one have coming in? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Are you just waiting to see who's going to answer, or my question not working?
We're talking a lot, so I was waiting for Jenny to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in terms of expectations, I mean, I kind of want people to live without expectations, and I know that's difficult. But with us, you're going to receive your literal blueprint of your soul, literally what is going on within each chakra, where your blocks are, what is stopping you from reaching your highest potential. And you will receive this. Sometimes it can be as big as I think we've seen it like 16-page report, even.
Yeah.
Pretty long details of what it is going on in your energy body. And then
That is incredible.
It's incredible. And that comes from Stephen's guide.
That's
Stephen's,
session one.
wow.
4-session immersion, Susie, and that's part one.
That's part one. So you get all this information, and then I come in on the second session and I work with you energetically through those blocks, through somatic healing. And so we go deep within, and generally there's only enough time for usually 1 or 2 blocks that we can actually really work out, because it takes time and effort to move through those. And then the third session is with Stephen again, and that is more of a light healing session. So now, you have your blueprint and you've been working with these blocks and through these energy patterns, and now Stephen comes in and infuses light in each chakra to give you new life energy, if I may say in that kind of way. And then the fourth session is with me in the last session of integration, where you really get to see this more clearly, because I add to that soul report, and then you look at what your next steps are, practically speaking, what practices you need to start doing, what kind of work you need to do on yourself moving forward. So this is a long plan. We work with you in 4 sessions. However, you could be working with your soul map for years, and we're always here to support anything moving forward. So the expectation is really that you're going to get a really deep understanding of who you are deeply on an energetic level, and what you need to work on to move forward to reach your highest potential. And yeah, it's powerful. And very seriously, I just want to reiterate that we do this with absolute non-attachment, and we'll do it for free for anyone who needs it.
Okay, so someone's feeling called to this. How would they begin their journey with the two of you? What step would they take?
Go to wisdompathways.life. And we are still working on our website, which I think we'll be working on it forever.
It's great. I mean, it's for those listening, they say they're working on it, but it is up and functioning and it's beautiful. They're perfecting it. Let's be clear. Like, you're not going to a site that's a train wreck. It's beautiful.
Yeah. We call the soul reset. It's this 4-session immersion. And seeing as you like cars, Susie, I've likened this a little bit to a tune-up, okay? So imagine you're going by the road of life and you feel a bit worn out, or it's time for, an oil change, whatever, and you pull over, and then Jenny and I are sitting by the side of the road. And then the first session is a diagnostic. We look at where the trouble is. We look at what the next steps are. Even then, in the mediumship reading, unique practices come out, conversations to have with relatives or people who are important in these stories. If I can say it, every story in your life is an energy. Every energy is a thing contained within you. And we can get to the root of problems quickly, not in months and years, and maybe in one session. It just depends, but it is possible. And then imagine then we got to empty the oil out of the engine. That's a somatic healing. That's a release of energies identified or blocks that need to come out. And then the healing light essentially is putting the new stuff back in. So it sounds kind of wild, but I do that over Zoom. And so if someone could be sitting at one woman in South Africa, and she's lying on a sofa, and I'm doing the healing light, and she feels it shift in each chakra, and tears come and energy comes, and then we can alchemize and get the divine light to re-enter, see? And then so that's the new oil, and then the integration is like when the guy comes at the end and reads you the report of like what to do, And so there's a very practical way of like, for your life, everything can be sacred. Here's choices to make. Here's conversations to have. Here's practices for the road, and then we see you back on the path. That's my way of explaining.
No. Again, every time you give one of those, I understand it more and more, and then I have more questions. So, of course, it's for everybody. But what I really am trying to say is, for those of us listening, I'm listening to you and I'm saying to myself, wow, that's incredible. However, this isn't for me because I'm not healing from any trauma. I'm not going through anything really big right now in my life. I'm just kind of coasting and everything's going okay. But man, that sounds interesting. Is that for that person?
Yes, you used the
Or
word.
is it someone that's... Yeah, no, please go.
Yeah, you used the word coasting, which is interesting. So our logo, and you'll see all over our website, is this image of a spiral, and which represents the energies, they spiral, the karma patterns come in cycles. And there's this thing called plateau. Is she still? Oh, there she is. There's a thing called a plateau.
I'm sorry, my phone.
That's okay. There's a thing called a plateau, Susie. Plateau has two sides to it, positive, negative. Plateau is like sluggish and stuck, but there also can be a coasting plateau. Everything materially seems pretty good. My kids later on want to go see a movie, we'll go eat pizza. Everything seems okay, but underneath there's this slight feeling something's off. That would be part of it. So coasting, I'm picking on your word coasting because do you want to coast your whole life?
No, that's actually really good. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah, and then the other part is there's periods in people's life that are essentially chapter changes. This is called a transition. And so that appears at different points. We've got the midlife crisis is the famous stereotype, but then you've got the quarter life, the 3/4 life. So there's certain points in life then where you're not going to get away with coasting anymore. And that's when you start to feel empty. So to those who are like, that's pretty cool and interesting, I would say go read our webpage at Wisdom Pathways and see if it speaks to you. This starts with an intuitive ping and knock on the door. That's the image I saw. If you read the webpage and look at it and go, I am curious, then that's the faint tap, tap, tap. And curiosity is the first aspect of higher self. It's just that curiosity. So if that's there, sure. If not, so be it. That's okay. This is a thing that will eventually pull you sooner or later.
We're always being called. It's just a matter of listening to it. And they're usually subtle callings. So sometimes one is so busy in the mind and in the body that they can't hear.
Yeah, they don't hear it for the static, right? And I also want to say, Jenny, too, is there's the subtle tap, tap, tap. And then there's the door kicked down.
Oh, yeah.
And that's things like a diagnosis or, despair and very serious ones. And this is a really hard one to say out loud because people, why should we be suffering? Where's your God in all this suffering? But there's a pattern in how the awakening happens, which is essentially a destruction of old attachments and old ego, and it pulls it down. Nice people or mean people, it happens to everyone. And so those moments need special care. And you find people on cancer journeys, they do all the cancer treatment, but they go on this big self-discovery journey. And so the soul reset's fantastic in those serious ones, because when you're in darkness, it's a tunnel essentially. You need people to guide you through the tunnel. And so there's the subtle ones, and then there's the ones that just the doors kick down, and you're pulled and you're thrown on to the floor, sort of thing. And it seems so terrible and so unfair. And sometimes I get a bit cross with Divine Mother and say, could you just make it a little bit easier? But that's what happens. So again, on that more extreme cases, which a lot of people go through, marriages breaking up and so on, that's where we really can make a difference. Because again, where do you go to get clarity?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, let's talk to the people for a second who are afraid to change. So maybe we have someone that's never even listened to sister sessions before. Somehow somebody told them, check this out. They're here. Hi, welcome. They're here today with us. And they're like, wow, this sounds so awesome, but I don't belong in this space. I'm not like that. But it's really interesting. And I'm pulled and I'm still listening and I'm not turning this off.
Mm-hmm.
But this is scary to me. But I want to know more.
Yeah.
How do you talk to those that are afraid of the change?
Yeah, I'm afraid of change myself. I have a lot of fear in myself. It's hard. And so this is very real. I would say I've done many readings of people like this. When I do a reading on someone and all of a sudden the energy, the intuition that's flowing through doesn't come cleanly and it's pulling, I know there's a lot of fear that's hidden. It's usually protected by control and stubbornness, by the way. So I say with a little wry smile that there usually stubbornness comes into some of this, but I see stubbornness as a guard for your fear. That's the way I interpret it. So the fear is real. And again, do you feel the truth that awakens you? If you pay attention, you can feel the fear trying to guard you, keep you small in the chicken coop, so to speak. And we want to honor that. It's very important. But if you can sense the difference between the two, you'll realize you're caught in what's called an inner conflict, an inner battle. That's one part of it. The second part is there's no easy way to go around it. This manifests as self-sabotage, procrastination, which I am, highly skilled at. And so there's procrastination ways, self-sabotage ways, excuses. There's all this stuff. And so if you can step back for a moment and go, you know what, there is a little something knocking on my door. It's there. I don't know what it is. Can you honor that? Going back to non-attachment, I tell people is, hey, here's a 10-page soul report of all the things you can do. But if you do none of them, don't be a stranger. Come back and see us. We love you just the same. This is hard. If you've experienced real trauma, abuse, and things when you were young, or these things are very unstable upbringings and things like this, then hell yeah, fear is sent to protect you, to keep you safe. See? And so that's important that we honor it, I guess, Susie, I'm trying to say. And secondly is if you can sense a difference between an energy that might awaken, open, and then the one that guards, you're in what's called an inner battle. And you need help and resources and awareness to fight that battle. It's not meant to be done alone. I mean, ultimately, you have to make the choice alone. But there's a saying in India, you have to help God or the soul take the reins of your chariot if you're going to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you have to fight, stand up and fight inwardly.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense, Jenny?
Yes, 100%. Exactly right.
And I feel like for the first time listening to the two of you speak on what your work is together, I feel like listening to the two of you is a reflection of how you treat the people that are coming to you, is a reflection really of how we're supposed to be treating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You're constantly forgiving in everything that you're saying. You're constantly forgiving. You're constantly accepting, welcoming, loving. I mean, it's all a reflection of what we're actually supposed to be treating, how we're supposed to be treating ourselves, which is so beautiful.
Thank you for saying it. And how we're supposed to treat ourselves. And then I'm going to go back to this scripture actually from India, the Bhagavad Gita. Is again this idea of when you've got these heavy burdens, when you realize inside of you you have some serious obstacles to overcome, the very act of getting out of bed is courageous. just getting up and trying to put your best self on is a sheer act of will. And I want to honor that. In this story from India, essentially there's this prince who's the best warrior, archer kind of thing. And when he sees the enemy, the battle, that's all his parts of his mind and subconscious that are against him. When he sees it all, he gets on his knees, drops his bow and arrow, and cries, "I can't do it." And then Krishna comes, the divine being, and says, "You must fight." That's a lot. That's a lot. And so in those moments, you're supposed to have companions on the team. And I say again, don't do this in isolation. Friends are a good place to start, support circles, therapists, coaches are different people. But in a way, we're bringing something very different that allows you to see a route, how to take it, how to refresh the energy engine and take those steps if you should. Under no illusions of myself, I would be a hypocrite to say otherwise. There's zero expectation to actually do it. We'll give you all that we can to get there. And everyone's different. And so if you don't do it, then it's very important to realize that maybe not today, but I'll try again tomorrow.
Even the act of being open to receiving sessions like this is a step forward.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. We have no expectations
We do have one slight one. So I say this slightly, but in our immersion, what we've realized is that people get an instinct and then back off, Susie. So what we say with our 4-session immersion, it's just 4 hours of your life really, or maybe 5 total, that we try and do it in 2 weeks. So we do our sessions close together, partly because of energetic reasons, because once you've activated these energies and stories, they're ripe for the picking, if you get my drift. And partly because of the nature of self-sabotage. Like if you do 1 and then just don't schedule 2 and 3, it's very easy to just let it drift off. So we try to get people to try and do the 4 sessions over 2 weeks. So you get your tune-up, oil change and all, don't like leave the car sitting in the shop when you've opened the engine, So that's the one thing we do have, right? It's trying to hold them to that.
Right. Right, and that makes sense. And I'd imagine that if you are beginning the work with you guys, you wouldn't even want to take a pause because it probably feels so good.
Yes,
from the
and
get-go.
challenging though. So yes, it can feel good. It can also feel scary to see. And to, it goes back to the fear of change and even the fear of perhaps seeing all these wounds. So we can see how people can easily kind of want to shut back down. And so that is why we have it now on our website where you need to schedule all 4 of them at once so that you're committing yourself to the process and saying, okay, I'm putting this in the books and I'm committing to these 4 sessions, even if I'm afraid. And we're here for counsel around that. We understand that. We know what it feels like to open the wounds and to have to look under the hood and to be honest and vulnerable with it. And you are so very held in that space by us because we've been there ourselves and we do it ourselves. We're not claiming to be enlightened beings. We're on our path as well, and we're learning as everyone else is. And so we just have a certain gift to be able to hold that space and to help people through the darkness.
Yeah. In a way, we're a little bit like a spiritual, I want to say med team. Can I say that? A spiritual med team. When you come out, you're in the battlefield, essentially, in the middle of all this craziness. And then the medic comes and we change the dressing and we get you where you can so you can move on in those cases, especially. In those cases, especially.
Yeah. And there's individual transformation, and then there's also collective transformation. How connected are they? Like, what's the difference? Or is it all kind of really the same in the end?
I love how your mind works, my friend. So one of the things is, think of your chakra, okay? Chakra means wheel or disc. But I would imagine it's a vortex, a little bit like a spiral galaxy or a black hole. It picks up particles from other people. That's the best way I can describe it. So in a family, you're going to pick up particles as a kid from your parents, and so you're going to pass them down to the kids. It happens, emotions spilling everywhere. So what's in your heart, your sense of I am, truly is bigger than just Stephen, Susie, Jenny, like in our heads. Do you see them saying? So your sense of I am, what's in your heart, is bigger than that. again and again and again, I find there's something in this time period that people are healing today, intergenerational pain and trauma, I would say intergenerational karma. Then you get people who seem to pick up collective particles in there. I've done a number of readings for authors, and I find a trend again and again and again that they have personal pain in their life, which somehow magnetizes collective pain. They turn it into their chakra and churn it into a story or a book. And then their book ripples out to all those people, and they get it on some level. And so that would be one concrete example I see. Your heart center, your true I am, is bigger than just your little body and your collection of habits and things you like to eat. It's bigger than that. So you're probably working for more than just you. And it's a really cool concept. It's called interbeing. And so essentially, these small acts you make ripple out. And so I'll often tell people, your work you do, the choice you make right now to be courageous, to stand up to abuse at work or whatever you're doing, that's actually doing it for the last 5 generations, I'll say. Or sometimes I'll say that you're doing this for all women in this predicament. Does that help answer?
I couldn't agree.
Yes.
That
Yes.
I think it's so vital for people to know that. And I say this all the time to people, is that I send so much gratitude for you for doing the work, because you're doing your individual work is shifting the collective. We are all interconnected, and there is the separation is the illusion. And so when you work with your energy field and cleanse it and purify it, you are purifying the whole on a really deep aspect and level. So it is the opposite of selfish, to work on yourself.
Agreed, because your I am is bigger. So working on yourself could potentially mean working on 10 people at once. And I meet people like that, and that's not an overstatement, it's an understatement. And then there's some people as well that you guys, going back to an earlier point, that they just have a hard life and they die one day. And you know what I see again and again, because the soul's a bit like a vortex, there might be, like, for example, one member of the family who just held the emotional burden of everybody. Usually every family has one. And guess what? When they die, they take all that negative energy and it just leaves with them. And then the family say, gosh, I feel different since they were gone. It's like a burden's been lifted. And then again, there's purpose in life when people do that. And I think every family has one, from what I can see. So we just don't know.
So,
yeah.
Does transformation have to feel like a challenge, or can some people they feel like ease? If you're going through transformation by choice, does it have to feel challenging?
What seems to come to me is because there's a positive side, which would be aspirational, which would be awakening to gifts, following dreams, stepping into things, and you're going to feel the proverbial flow. If it's not challenging, challenge yourself. That's what seems to come. So it's like one of those things, hey, your kid's really good at baseball or something, then don't just sit there with your talent and try your hardest. That's what seems to come to me.
That makes sense. No, I really like that, because it makes sense. Jenny and I were just having this conversation last night about how, the things with the biggest rewards, come with the biggest challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think of every talent of every kid that grows up, sport or whatever, the first thing that the grumpy coach says is, it's not just talent, kid. You got to work for it. And so challenge yourself in that way. And it's not a competitive thing per se, although that does it helps you rise to the occasion. It's a case of like giving your all.
Yeah.
In those senses, because when things are flowing well for you, don't try, give it your all. That's
Yeah, I kind of have that blunt answer for my children when it comes to sports and things, and they're like, talking about wanting to be better, and I'm like, do better, try harder. I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best, you got to do more than everyone else.
6 a.m. and go swing the bat. And so there's definitely that side to it. And then the other side, because the ego doesn't like when you're in the adversity side of that. But that's that same point where you got to then rise to meet the challenge. One's positive, one's negative. But that's how life deals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I have I have a little fun I'd like to have for a second. If we could just like do this. Little rapid fire questions for Stephen. I love these things. It makes me shoulder shimmy, Jenny.
Yes, I know.
Should
Shimmy
I tune
away.
in
All right.
to answer the question?
You tune in. Okay? All right. This is just fun. All right, Stephen. Morning ritual, meditation, or movement?
I'm going to answer you the way I hear it. Both, dear sisters. The integration of both creates harmony, heaven on earth. Yin and yang create the harmonious circle between both aspects of nature. Invoke the body of energy and receive. Then sit with it, hold it, and fill the container with light. Then you will step forward your harmonious self.
That was so good. That was so good. Wow. I did not prep him for that question, everyone. Came straight from his heart. That was amazing. Okay. If your soul had a theme song, what would it be?
I just love that. It just makes me laugh so much. If you're speaking of this particular soul, this is the guide speaking about me, I think, as well. There is a need to shake it. You say, they're playing with me because my daughter loves Taylor Swift, shake it off. But there's a need to shake off the energy. So we say shake, shake, shake. Is that not an Otis Redding song, you guys? To shake it off, shake it up, and shake. I think there's like 3 songs there.
Yeah.
This is an energetic transmission in that the music moves particles of energy stuck to energy field. Shake it off is a literal, physical, figurative expression. And then there is shake. I'm pretty sure there's an Otis Redding song called Shake. You guys know that? I don't know. Anyway, I like Otis Redding. And so this idea of shake and movement and how that comes up. And anyway, that's what comes to me as an answer. I garbled it a little bit because I was thinking about me. But it's shake it off, shake it up, shake. You'll have to look it up. I think that's 3 songs. I don't even know one of them.
I love that. Well, that's kind of like someone that's coasting. They need to shake it up a little bit.
Potentially. Yeah. Well done. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Crystals or candles, which one do you grab first?
Yes. The crystal's energetic infusion is best held in the hand or worn close to the chest. We say to grab for it first in many ways because it changes the resonant signature of the energy field of each person. Even just the color tone you're drawn to will be enough. Don't overread the descriptions. Instead, let it be instinctual. Use that to hold in your hands and ground yourself. Then light the candle. Just so you know, Susie and Jenny, I saw an image of when you hold it in your hand, this infusion of light goes through your whole nervous system. And so it is a light activation tool. And then the candle is symbolic of the soul's nature. That's the flame. And so I think what they're trying to say is the crystal first in a way because that sets the energy field in motion and it somehow syncs up to the crystal's quality. Something like that.
Now I'm inspired to go this evening to a store and find a crystal that I'm drawn to.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
serious.
overread the descriptions.
I am. I'm very drawn to do that this evening. Okay. One book you think everyone should read on transformation.
On transformation? There is a book that I very much cherish, and it's called the World Wisdom Bible, and it's written by Rami Shapiro. And what he does is, this is a rabbi, and he's a colorful character. He has a podcast, Conversations with Rabbi Rami, and he looks at the big questions of life. Who am I? What does it mean to be wise and holy? And he draws from world scripture, including indigenous, and he puts little quotes in to answer the questions. And
excellent.
What comes to me is when you read this, you see the magnificence of the world traditions, including indigenous, and how they come together into the one final universal reality. And you realize then which way you're drawn and what speaks to you. This will help your listeners and viewers to then find a spiritual path that feels right.
I will put that in the show notes. So scroll down for everyone listening and you can find that information so that you can get on the path to transformation. Okay. Do you prefer guiding in nature or in a studio retreat space?
Yes. I'm going to answer intuitively through the guides. Both have equal accessibility, although the medium does prefer quiet. I once did a reading this thing where I was in this noisy place and it's very hard to hear. wisdom and noise. So in that way as well. The creation of a sacred container known as a sanctuary will enhance the beacon. And so it is imperative that there is some covering. Under the shade of a tree would be useful. And so the covering seems to help. This is a cocoon effect. Cocoon effect allows you then to be in the beacon and to receive in this way. Whereas nature's transmission is expansive outwardly, provisioning, creating. I'm going to call it ideating. I don't think that's even a word. Ideating or expanding one's sense of self. Use nature in this way. But the beacon container is enhanced through a quote-unquote covering. That's what it seems.
All right. If you could give the world one affirmation right now, what would it be, Stephen?
Embrace your truth. Wear it well, like a great cloak around you. Realize the truth has the capacity to set you free. It is known for centuries now. Embrace your truth. Know it in your heart, and it will awaken a desire that will step you into magnificence. Do not hold back. Embrace the truth. It is yours to claim now, in this moment. Now, in this moment.
Thank you. That was beautiful. You are awesome. I'm just overwhelmed by you. You really are incredible. And Jenny held you to such a high, regard and I see everything. I see how the two of you have found each other. It makes so much sense. Okay. The biggest misconception people have about intuition.
I'm showing this in an image form, so I have to unpack the image. But basically, there's a transmission like a funnel or a megaphone that's just always speaking. And so because of inner confusion, trapped identities and materialism, and just sheer irritation of distraction, that people don't realize the signal's not there. Emerson spoke of the still, soft voice within. It is access to everybody. Do not wait for another to tell you so. The voice speaks now. Get quiet, remove distraction, still the body, and that you'll hear the signal much more deeply. Never say, I don't have it. It would be a falsehood.
That's really good. Okay, this is fun. Tea, coffee, or something else when you're grounding yourself.
You're talking to a Scotsman, eh? We drink a lot of tea, so your question is, if I can I reframe your question? Are you asking what's the optimal way to ground yourself? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, in a fun way. So you answer that.
I'm thinking it less fun.
You answer that
way
Stephen way
as well. Interesting. Hold your hand to the earth, and you will feel her pulse within. She will send energetic waves up through the palm of the hand, the root of the foot, both the bare foot and the bare hand. She will send waves up through energy field, and she will bring the energy down into its grounded root. You will feel as if she holds you on her back, just like an animal is held on the mother's back. Like a monkey comes like that. They're saying, held on the mother's back. This will ground you in more ways than one. It says, touch your hand to Mother Earth. There's a Hindu custom. I remember one of the swamis telling me. And when they wake up in the morning, the monks' first act is not their foot on the earth, which they consider disrespectful. It's your hand on the earth. And they ask permission to walk on her. It's a Hindu Vedic custom, I believe. And there's a special prayer they have. It's very elaborate. So I see the palm touching on the earth. Touch your hand to the earth, and she will transmit her signal. This will switch the energy field and ground the circuit, bringing a sense of calmness and heldness. You will realize you're standing on her back, and she will carry you forward. No tea or coffee required.
Noted. Okay. Transformation, slow and steady, or lightning bolt?
Depends on the situation, depends on the needs of the soul and the karmic impetus. If the planets have aligned and the window is open, there may not be any other choice. It'll be now or never. You'll know there'll be a sense of anxiety and tension rises as the window closes. Something says, I got to, and it shakes the person up. Other times people, they navigate the river through the kayak at ease. Think of it then, they go for a while, the water's still. Keep moving forward slowly, diligently. Rest assured, the water will become rapid again. What is in nature is within your nature. Expect the same. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're on the river of life. There's going to be some periods where you do row slow, but do you just sit there and wait, or do you keep, you go to your practice, you sit to meditate, and all those times, and there's other times where you hold on tight and ride the rapids. It's not your best rowing, but you just get.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, by the
If
way,
you
the
had
guide
one
system,
word,
the follow-up questions are welcome, in case you thought one. Did you think one?
I was just thinking about several things you said mixed into one question there. I don't even know, but we were talking about coasting earlier, and then you were talking about shake it up. So if, say, I'm coasting, should I consciously shake it up for no reason? Should I just shake it up? Or should I wait for a sign that it's time to shake it up?
I got to clarify, you yourself or everyone? You said I, so I want to be clear.
I do like to speak for
Everyone?
listeners,
Yeah.
try to get the collective. However, I will say me
Yeah.
for this question.
Okay, in that way as well. Well, as soon as the first two words come through our design and fashion, and there's a lot of creative potential in a little bottle that's still to be used and poured out to the canvas of life, and the momentum can be fulfilled at a greater level than before. That's what comes. It shows me a little glass bottle, like an apothecary's little shop, and you go in, there's a glass bottle of creative potential, and it says design and fashion, and it says pour it out on the canvas of life. There's lots more to be had. You have great ingenuity, I would say, and innovation in who you are. And so let that be poured out. And they take this bottle, the cap comes off, and they say, pour the bottle on the canvas. And it instantly becomes a painting.
Okay.
Don't be afraid
If you
to
had
try.
one word.
Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid
Okay.
to try. Pour it on the canvas,
Yeah.
You'll see it come to life. Don't be afraid.
Okay. If you had one word for the collective energy right now, what would it be?
I didn't quite hear you. Can you repeat?
Sure. If you had one word for the collective energy right now, what would that be?
This one's a painful one. Escape. Many people are behind bars in mental prisons, held back in certain ways by the fabric of society, by how things are. Imagine now you had the key the whole time. Turn the key. Break free of the jail imposed upon you or within you or you grew up with. Open yourself up now. Liberation is the key. The bell is ringing inside, saying, get out, get out, get out. Meet the moment, and you will find your destiny. And one word is the escape.
Escape.
It's like a jail. It's shining like a jail, and it's a person there the whole time you had the key. There's a saying in our teaching that Jenny and I study about the bird inside the bird cage, and then you open the door and the bird doesn't. You think go fly, and it doesn't fly. It stays in the cage, and so that's what we're.
Well, that was your 10 rapid fire questions, but for you, Stephen, we do have a bonus question. And that is, what's one word you would use to describe working with Jenny at Wisdom Pathways?
I'm going to call it, I don't know if it's the one word, but divine symphony comes to mind. There is an orchestration of gifts that come together that create symphony. And I see this in my work because what I do is amazing individually, but there's something in the harmonic of it, the two of us, that creates a new kind of music. And it's this combination of both gifts come together. I know it's a long word, you asked for one word, but symphony is what came to me.
No, this is just to get a conversation started.
Hey.
Yeah.
But there's things that symphony, that's what comes to me, is symphony. And a new harmonic. And so again, when two people make music together, it's more than just the instruments. There's a harmonic in it that's transformative.
Beautiful. So Jenny.
I work with him.
Yes, I was just going to ask you, Jenny, how has collaborating with Stephen influenced you on your own path of awareness and growth?
Wow.
How has working with Stephen influenced your own path of awareness and growth?
Well, he's opened up parts of me that I think have been dormant inside.
He's shaking it up.
He shakes me up. Yeah, I mean, just recently in the past year, a little over a year, I have been channeling, and that has been extremely unexpected. And I know that if that had come to me earlier before Stephen and I started working together, I'm not, who knows, but it's very likely that I would have not been as open to that. So he helps me to trust in myself and my gifts even more because he has such confidence in me and in our work. And so he's helped me probably more than I even realized. And we've never really talked about this before, but he is my brother. He is my soul brother. And I know we've done this before in other lives. So grateful for him.
Likewise, we have this funny thing, like if we're sitting co-teaching on a stage platform or just in a room or something. When Jenny's speaking, she's got this heart, it's as big as the ocean, and she's just coming out like this, all of this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, man, I'm so much in my head. I need to be more like Jenny and be in my heart and be open. I have this sort of like cross thing of being like, we need to be more like each other. We have this yin yang thing going on.
Yes, because when you're talking, I'm like, wow, I want to talk like he does. So we balance each other out really well, and it's been such a gift and a blessing to be.
What a blessing the two of you are together. I mean individually, obviously, but together, the team that you've created to come here and help everyone on this planet that crosses your paths is just amazing.
Thank you,
Amazing.
Susie.
And I cannot wait to see where this goes because for everyone listening, this is beginning. This is only the beginning of the journey of the two of them working together. And it's magical. It's absolutely magical. And we're so grateful that you joined us today on Sister Sessions. You could share this with all of our listeners. And I know that everyone is feeling so touched right now.
Thank you.
I am. Yes.
It's a delight to do these things, and it's also great for us just to speak and open and be in that conversation with it. So thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift.
Yeah.
Gift. You're so gifted, Susie, in the way that you ask questions, the way that you relate to people, the way that you're light. I just absolutely adore you.
Well, Stephen, any last words you'd like to share with our listeners and Jenny and I today?
Yeah, I would say open your hearts from what you've received in this conversation and feel the pull of the heart. I'll also say, may there be a blessing upon the sister sessions, the two of you and your work together, and may you rise to the occasion in all that you do. God bless you both.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, dear brother. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Sister Sessions. All is well.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Sister Sessions podcast. If you found inspiration in today's conversation, we'd love it if you shared the episode with your besties, family, or even your favorite neighbors. We'll be back next week with more to share, but until then, remember, meditation is the key to unlocking your inner peace. All is well, friends. See you soon.